when you think of wrestling, you think of greats like you, like Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation. I mean, you in the ring was like watching artwork. And that's the biggest compliment I can give you, because that's the thing that I think a lot of the fans realize, and they wanted Bret Hart back. And since you've come back, I mean, you've seen the outpouring of cry, more Bret, especially in Canada, and especially over here. It doesn't matter where you're at. I think just a respect level for you being in the business for as long as you did, you needed to have that back, not only for yourself, but for the fans to come back and say, hey, this is what we want. We want Bret back.
I think it's a good way. That's about the same way I look at it. I think it's been good for everybody. And, I feel good. It's different if I'd come back and Shawn still had an attitude and Triple H was sort of staring at me from across the room. But I never had that. They've all been really good. And I think I can honestly say with Shawn that it felt like I lifted 1,000,000 pounds off his back. And I think he really appreciated the fact that I was able to do that for him and set him free and forgive what happened. And, in a lot of ways you set yourself free, too.
Well, you never forget, but you can forgive, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, you got to move on, and I even now I'll never forget what happened, and there's not, a lot more, there's things that you can never make up for.
And there's cautious steps going forward. I understand that too.
But at the same time, it's, I'm 54 years old, just turned 54 a few weeks ago, and they call you up and say, hey, you want to go down and be the guest referee in South Africa? And it's like, Sure. Why not?
Take a nice little trip.
I'll take a trip. Things like that. I've enjoyed doing it because I get to reconnect with the audience and the fans I had 10 years ago, and even coming back in the last year for WWE. I've sensed sort of a wave of new fans come from the kids that watch now that maybe didn't know who I was, or it's been very good for everybody, and I'm grateful for that. I think that's what I wanted, and that's what that they gave me back. That means so much to me.
Well, speaking of you being from the past and coming back, who do you see in the future that you like as a current wrestler on the WWE roster? I know you don't watch it as much, but I mean, who would you see as standouts maybe in the future that could be close to you or hold a candle to what you used to do?
Well, I think Randy Orton's a great wrestler. He's got a lot of injury issues. But he's technically and physically. When I watch him, the way he moves and the way he conducts himself in the ring he's a chip off the block. His father Bob was a great wrestler, and so I think he's somebody that I'm always happy to watch, and I like the way he works. Even John Cena, who technically maybe some people question whether he's as technically sound as someone like myself, but the truth is the workload that he carries and the stuff that he does every day on the basis of being the company champion, the radio phone-in shows and the handicapped kids that you meet and the photos and the newspaper interview, and it's 24 hours a day, and that's what I love about John Cena, and I'm very in awe of how much he carries the flag for the company and carries everybody. And it does remind me back when I was in my heyday with Vince. I worked really hard and did all the extra legwork and promos and interviews and meeting kids, and I did all that same thing. And you just hope in the end that they never forget it. And I hope that the wrestlers that are watching guys like Cena realize that he pays a great sacrifice all the time for everyone else's benefit. And I stick my hand out to him for that. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think technically Cena's not there yet, but charismatically he is over the top and great, and I think that's why he gets kids fans and stuff like that. What do you think today when you were on the panel sitting there next to Hunter and Ray and the rest of the guys from Mattel, that you turn around and you have a guy like CM Punk, who's the champion, who walked out of the champion, come in and interrupt and doesn't even defend the title, just leaves with the title. What do you see about that?
Well, I think, wrestling's like, sometimes it's like playing a poker game. He's kind of in the middle of a poker game with WWE and Vince, and I just hope that there's only a certain time or window to achieve that greatness, and he was on the cusp of it, of being of earning himself his right to be like on the top pedestal of wrestling. And it's a tricky road to navigate, because they can. You could lose your job and be fired, and 2 years from now, who's going to know who CM Punk is, maybe, But at the same time, if he plays his cards right and he stands up for himself and wins a few things from the promotion that protect him, and in the end, it's like no one really knows what's going on behind the scenes, but there's something going on, and I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but I just hope it ends with a happy ending, because I as a fan, I like Punk, and I like watching him, and I like what he's doing, and I would hate to see WWE lose a guy like him.
Kind of gives me that impression of like when you turned heel. It's kind of like where you took over, and it's like you didn't care, and it's like he doesn't either, and it's like, but you still showed up. Punk's taking another route, and he's not even showing up. So, I mean, there's got to be a little bit of a respect issue.
Yeah, well, Punk, I don't know if he has the audience that, like, I had the Cena type crowd. The kids loved me, and were going to stand by me, and I think Punk's in a little different category. The wrestling audience is a little different. But I have to admit that when I was watching some of his promos a few weeks ago, I thought, geez, this is so eerily similar to where I was at. And there was a lot more truth and reality. When you watch those interviews, they were real interviews, right, where I spoke a lot from the heart, and I feel the same with Punk.
That's how I feel. I think it was great. But I appreciate your time being out here at Comic-Con, coming out and standing out. And Wrestling Figs will be back with more coverage from Comic-Con here very shortly.